The budget overall has a very positive aura to it. No tax till 12 lakh rupees.
Because of this move, government could take a revenue hit of 1 lakh crore.
If there is no tax up to 12.75, why are there still tax slabs?
Which sectors are going to get benefited from this budget?
Will I end up paying a lot more tax based on the tax slabs?
Is there any way that I could reduce my tax? Which segment could actually benefit from this is diagnostic sector.
Trump tariff and trade wars. Why is it a bad thing?
When the two major superpowers of the world are fighting, India is indirectly trying to benefit from it.
Looks like very interesting times to be alive in India.
Currency depreciating actually has this hidden benefit.
Did Zudio make a loss of 45,000 crores?
The stock has fallen nearly 40% over the last few months. One of Tata's most famous and largest companies.
It was already trading at astronomically high valuations.
There were 7 people with the same shirt, all from Zudio.
What is it even? A PE of, what is a PE of 240?
As participants in the Indian stock market, one of our major responsibilities is to be forward-looking. That means, just like how we try to analyze how a company might perform in the future, we also need a broad vision of how the country and our economy is going to perform. And that's why the first topic of today is understanding which are the sectors in the 2025 budget which are looking interesting, not just for the short term, but for the long term as well. As always, these are not stock recommendations, but some sectors for you to learn and understand which will benefit you for the long term. The second topic of today is understanding the trade wars that's going on between US and multiple countries, including China, Mexico, and even Canada. So even here, there is a case to be made that India is going to be a huge beneficiary of this entire political scenario. And we are once again looking at which are the sectors which could do well once China or investments start moving out of China. And the third topic for today is Zudio, or the parent company Trent stock, falling by 40% over the last multiple months. So even here a case is to be made that we are once again trying to be very forward looking, trying to understand what is the latest updates from its quarterly reports, and just analyzing and talking about the company's recent valuations. So all of these topics are very, very forward looking, and that's what makes this episode very, very special. We have discussed topics like in the past, including deeply understanding what is forex rate and how the falling rupee affects the Indian market. Just like that, we have a lot of things to learn about, including in looking at today's RBI's interest rate cut. So again, the whole point of this episode is to be very forward looking so that you can deeply understand what is happening in the Indian economy and spark that intellectual curiosity in you that makes you want to study the Indian stock market a bit better. So let's get started with the podcast. The market's actually performing well for this week and moving up, and a lot of positivity being pumped in by the budget is what we can understand. Nifty crossing the 200 days exponential moving average after a long time, along with Bank Nifty as well. So I think it's overall a positive sentiment or a positive week for the market.
Yeah, investors are also happy that there is some sort of relief, some sort of bounce that they saw. But again, we are seeing from the last 2 days, it is again getting sold off a little bit. So while budget was great and amazing, people expected a Nirmala Sitharaman candle 2.0. Even I heard or saw PR Sundar's tweet also that could happen, but nothing of that sort happening. So I still believe there should be some strong trigger, something that should shake the market and take the markets up, but I still see some negativity or some weakness in the market yet still.
So I think that's where we need to get into our interesting stories of the week. A lot has happened in the market, especially the budget. So let's start with that. So introducing all of the hosts here for the 12th episode of the Aftermarket Podcast. My name is Ajay Ajit. This is Nihal Bandapalli.
Hi.
And this is Sharik Shamsin, CEO and co-founder of MarketFeed.
Hi.
So what's our first interesting story for the week?
Given budget came out this week, I mean, we should talk about that, right? I know in the last podcast, we only talked about, should we even care about budget? But then, hey, when it comes out, there are critical points to be talked about as to, hey, we're all investors here and listeners are also obviously investors. So they will be concerned or thinking about which are those sectors which could get benefited from the budget. So we have some points. I think we should talk about that. But before getting into that, there is this 4 themes that Nirmala Sitharaman talked about in the budget. I think, hey, let's quickly talk about that and then get into proceedings.
Yeah, agriculture, MSME, investments, and exports. These are the larger 4 themes or pillars with which this budget was announced. And the government said that all of this will be fueled by reforms in the entire bureaucratic system. So these 4 themes, along with these reforms, is what is going to change India over the upcoming years. And I also think after finishing this small section, we should discuss the taxes. We can't run away from it. Personal taxes changing by quite a lot. So yes, let's continue.
So yeah, before that, tell me which sectors are going to get benefited from this budget.
So the first sector that comes to my mind should definitely be infrastructure and industrial manufacturing companies. And think about what is infrastructure. We building India together, and what are the companies that align in this thought or in this theme?
Yeah, they are the most likely to benefit there.
Yeah, there's a lot of mention in the budget, not just this time, even in multiple budgets previously as well, on investment on infrastructure. We want to build India, and the infrastructure has to be top notch, and we've been seeing that as well of late. And we've been seeing in previous budgets where there was emphasis on infrastructure, and then all the companies in that space getting benefited is also a theme that we've already seen playing out, right?
Yeah, and the stocks that come to my mind are again Ultratech Cement, because they are industry leader in the cement segment. Then there is Tata Steel that could benefit, Siemens that could benefit, L&T, and there are many more companies that could benefit in this whole theme, right?
Yeah. So I want the audience to understand and take away the themes, not look into these specific stocks. That's not what we want here, but understand the theme, the reasoning behind which these stocks are being discussed here, and try to get into, I don't know, much more nuances, much more in depth of what they can understand, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be the ones to find those gems of stocks that turn into multi-baggers that you can let us know in the comments section down below and share it with all
simply
of us.
understand the supply chain. So who is supplying the raw materials, who is doing the contractors, who is building stuff. So just understand the supply chain and find the pioneers in those industries and just invest there.
Yeah. And the next sector, major sector, again as Sharik said, which has been discussed for multiple years in a row, is renewables and EV resources. So if you're looking at how India is progressing as a country, and for any growing economy, there is a huge need for power.
Yeah.
Right. And energy. So there was a huge emphasis on nuclear energy this year. And it's a fresh thing for India, right? Not many nuclear plants in the country, and also a lot of reforms in the energy sector. And one major thing that people have to notice in the EV sector, there have been a lot of new changes which will benefit lithium ion battery setting up in India. Again, we don't have those resources yet, huge lithium ion resources which India can use yet, but it will be much more easier and cost efficient for you to set up the lithium ion packaging centers in India. So obviously you'll have to look at stocks like Tata Motors and Ola Electric and any energy companies in India. You can even take the Adanis and Ambanis of the country. There are major players in the energy sector, and they will also most likely benefit. That's one of the major themes here.
Another sector which could get really benefited is coming from one of the themes, which is MSME. MSME is nothing but micro, small and medium enterprises. And these are nothing but small businesses which are building India, the backbone of Indian economy, right? So, which is great. So, budget is talking a lot about strengthening them, and how to strengthen them. Lot of different ways, and one way among multiple ways they're suggesting is giving them more money to work with, right? So they're even suggesting collateral free loan limit being increased from 5 crore to 10 crore. So from all the themes, what I'm looking at is, when MSMEs could flourish, if they are to take more loans, who would get benefited?
All the banks
and
financial,
people who are lending money, NBFCs, small finance banks. So that's the thing. That's the sector. So when MSME is just an indicator, and the sector which could get benefited, I feel, is banks and NBFCs and small finance banks, even more, especially because we're speaking about micro, small businesses in tier 2, 3, 4 towns. So again, I'm not going into names of the stocks. As we said, it's up to our viewers to go and find them. But hey, this is a theme, a sector which could really get.
And I really want to remind the viewers that, especially in the finance sector, if you're going into companies or banks which are lending primarily non-collateral loans to all of these small MSMEs, there is also a credit risk that we have to acknowledge.
There is a risk, but then hey, whichever plays out, the upside could also be really nice. These small, medium enterprises could also turn out big. They could grow, and the story could also be very nice. So these relationships these small companies they have with their bankers is also very nice. It's very special. That could also evolve over time, and the banks could get the benefit out of that as well. But
Yeah.
I get your point.
Definitely. While talking about evolving and stuff, so there is also one more sector or one more theme which could benefit a lot is the pharma sector as well as the education sector, because in the recent budget also a lot of money is again getting pumped into that sector. So when we look at medical sector also, while government is trying to push, a lot of money would flow into government hospitals, but again subsidiary of that, which sectors or which segment could actually benefit from this is, in my opinion, would be a diagnostic sector.
Okay.
Because establishing a diagnostic center or getting tests done for all the government patients that go into the government hospitals is like very capex high business, right? So they would obviously lean towards a private player who can provide them the diagnostic services. So in that space, for me, maybe Max Health or Vijaya Diagnostics or Dr. Lal Path Labs,
Yeah.
all of these companies could again benefit, is what I believe.
Yeah. So again, what I see or I'm understanding from all of your discussions is that there are 3 or 4, even 5, 6 themes that are coming out from this budget, right? And these are the largest themes that we have discussed. There are also smaller themes like cotton manufacturing. There's leather exports being discussed. So a lot of larger or smaller themes as well.
Yeah.
And from these themes, we have to try and understand what stocks or what sectors inside these themes could benefit.
Yeah.
Like you talked about infrastructure, and inside that cement and steel could benefit. And you talked about healthcare and pharma. Inside that particularly, the small theme could benefit, which is diagnostics.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we want the audience to think like.
But
yeah.
again, if anybody is looking for business opportunities, I would say even look into Makhana industry. So government is giving lot of benefits for Bihar and Makhana production and all. So if anybody wants to set up their businesses, I would say look into that sector as
But
well.
I also want listeners of this podcast to listen to the previous podcast where we also spoke about, hey, budget can give you indicative understanding of certain sectors to do good, but then how do you utilize those opportunities is a completely different story in itself. Do you trade it for a short term? Do you do a momentum play? Or are you finding real value picks here to become a long-term investor? It's a completely different beast in itself, but let's not even go there. I think the larger understanding of the budget and the sectors and an educational understanding of how to benefit from it is already done, but we cannot close this story without talking about the elephant in the room, which is nothing but the no tax till 12 lakh rupees. I mean, social media is all about it. Everyone's talking about it. And I know we also have our strong opinions there, but let's quickly talk about that and move ahead.
So there are again reports saying that because of this move, government could take a revenue hit of 1 lakh crore. And
that's
that is
huge.
being discussed a lot. Again, rightly, right? So in the budget that was presented, almost 22% of India's revenue comes from this income tax. So that could come down slightly,
Yeah,
is what
that
I
could
say.
come down. So I think the whole understanding is that if the economy is slowing down, or in order to increase the pace of the economy, of its growth, you have two levers. The government has multiple levers. We have discussed interest rate and forex rate and everything previously. But one of the major levers is government spending. So they're doing this by investing into more sectors, into more industries. They're doing government spending on one side. On the other side, there are also tax cuts, which will boost the personal spending by people. And that's what's happening here,
Yep.
right? So they're decreasing the taxes up to 12 lakh, no taxes, zero taxes in India, 12.75 for salaried.
Yeah.
And that, even with the reduced government income that they'll have, the government is hoping that the economy will be boosted up by so much. Indirect taxes, as we discussed
Exactly.
in the
Yeah.
previous episode, indirect taxes will increase, which will compensate all of the revenue lost from direct taxes.
So the
that
GST
clearly
collection
is-
would increase.
Absolutely. I mean, government is expecting people not to save this extra 1 lakh crore rupees, not to invest it, but for them to spend it somewhere. And
Yeah.
wherever they spend, government is making money via GST. So yeah.
So I think all of the people have read the headlines, 12 lakhs and 12.75, and all the confusions regarding it is what I see is still not cleared. So I think the first major question is that if there is no tax up to 12.75, why are there still tax slabs even at 4 to 8, 8 to 12 and so on?
So the one straight answer I would give is it is only there to help you reduce taxes. That is
Okay.
one straight answer. So you would ask me how. So if you are coming under 12.75 lakhs as a salaried individual, don't even think about why does a percentage exist or why does a tax slabs exist.
Yeah, because with the rebate system that is in place, you'll be anyway ending up paying no tax.
Correct. So, but let us say you are coming under the tax bracket and you have to actually pay the tax. And let us take the top case scenario, which is 25% tax slab. I'm not talking about 30% tax slab because there the taxation calculation is different. So let us take up to 24 lakhs. If you're falling under, you have to pay 25% of the tax.
Okay.
Now, how would people think? Okay, I am earning up to 24 lakhs. So I fall under 25% tax bracket. So I have to pay 25% of this 24 lakhs, which is coming down to 6 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
But that is not true. So this is where the tax slabs will kick in and actually help you save taxes.
Yeah. So you'll end up paying a smaller tax for that 4 to 8 lakhs of your income. And for 8 to 12 lakhs of your income, you have to pay 10%. So on and so forth, it will be added up one by one.
So the government says, whatever the first 4 lakhs that you are earning from this 24 lakhs, I'm not going to tax you.
Yeah.
And then for every 4 lakhs, they have increased 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25. So for each 4 lakh as a slab, they'll charge you this certain percentage. I'll add a table for you all on the screen so that, it is easy for you to understand. And they will add up all of that and give you the tax rate that you have to pay. So effective tax rates will come down drastically, almost by 50% to whatever you are seeing. That is why tax slabs exist.
Yeah. So we have made a detailed video on this as well. So I think everyone can refer to that to try and understand how to calculate your taxes, what will be the difference compared to last year.
Correct.
And I think that's where we have to discuss one of the elephants in the room, something that's being discussed a lot on social media, which is, so let's say Nihal is earning 12.75 lakh rupees as his income and I'm earning 12.76 lakhs as my income. Will I end up paying a lot more tax based on the tax slabs? I'll actually end up paying 66,000 rupees as tax.
Yeah,
How
even
is
on
that fair?
Instagram and Twitter, I've been, people just trying to criticize government. Yeah, so definitely we have to clear
might not
that.
even be falling in that category, a
Yeah,
very
exactly.
small place of earning between 12 or 12.76 lakhs specifically. But hey, people have opinions and they're making a fuss about it. But hey, the point is there is no point to make a fuss about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So there is something called as a marginal relief concept. And what's interesting is that the same thing was applicable even last year when there was no income tax up to 7.75 lakhs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same question. What if I earned 7.76 instead of 7.75? That was applicable then as well. So there is a marginal relief concept which says that if you're earning slightly more than the no tax level, which is 12.75 lakhs, you can pay what is a difference that you're earning. So let's say you're earning 12.76. You can pay that extra 1,000 rupees as tax to the government. No need to go through the entire tax slabs and pay that entire 60,000 rupees amount. So with the earlier example, me at 12.76, you at 12.75, I'll still end up paying tax. But then I won't be taxed so much as people are thinking. So I think that's a common misconception.
You'll only have to pay that marginal, the difference amount of 1,000 rupees as the tax. And again, one thing, you have to pay the 4% cess as well on that
This
tax
is a
that
slight
you have
difference.
to pay. Yeah.
So I know some people will come and comment out, hey, you forgot about the cess, but there's a 4% cess also. So we've made that easy to use calculator. I'll link it even in the description here. You can come play with it, try out different income levels, try and see what is the effective taxation rate. Even for surcharges, if you have that, you can try it out in the calculator.
But again, before we move to surcharges, I think you should also even clarify till what level does this marginal relief is beneficial. So till where it is there. So
till whatever level it is mathematically logical. So after a point, this marginal relief doesn't help you, right? There is no point. So till around 13.5 lakhs is where that level is today. And after that, you anyway are paying normal tax. So you're not being taxed extra because of the sudden jerk of taxation kicking in.
So if I'm earning from 12.76 to 13.5, so I have to pay all of that money into taxes anyway, right? So is there any way that I could save or reduce my taxes?
Yeah, I know it's a very specific tax bracket, but then there is a way. So your employer can start contributing to either EPF or NPS on behalf of you. That is a national pension scheme or the employee provident fund. And up to a certain percentage of your salary, you can claim it as deductions and decrease your taxable income. So I know it's a hack. So money that you would have just lost as taxes to the government, you can save it using this hack. But I guess that's a very small percentage of the population.
Exactly.
People are just discussing it
Yeah.
for the fun of it, I guess.
Yeah. Anyways, the budget overall has a very positive aura to it. I mean, it's looking good. Even though no major relief for people who are earning high. Last budget was good. The highest effective tax rate kind of came down from above 40 to nearly 39, which was good, but nothing of those sorts this year. But overall, I think the budget was nice, and feeling bullish on the economy. But yeah, that's where maybe we can move on to the next story.
Yeah. So when we talked about budget, it is on what is India planning to do and what is the growth story of India. Our finance minister of India trying to tell the whole citizens of our country. But then there is again, the big daddy, the US or the Trump being now the president, there is something even bigger happening in the world right now, which is the trade war. So Trump coming out and, putting sanctions and tariffs across on all the countries. And we even see recently the tariffs being kept on Mexico and even China. And there is a possibility of tariff on India as well. So definitely we should talk about that, because if the big daddy or the US or the Trump is not happy and is putting a lot of tariffs on India, we could take a hit, and all this growth story, budget story, everything can take a toss.
Yeah. And on the other hand, if it is being played out well, or if things might go the way that we expect it to, I think India can benefit by quite a lot. We saw this under Trump's last presidency as well, where tariffs were imposed on China. And during the 2020 years, when the entire world got a trigger, a lot of industries and manufacturing moved out of China. And India was benefited quite a lot, right? There are a lot of reports saying that. So I think even this time around, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We are putting out a lot of terms like tariffs and stuff like that. But I think India last week woke up on a Monday morning, and so hey, Nifty is opening with a gap down after a seemingly good budget. People were expecting things to be good, and then we opened with a gap down, and we're looking for reasons, and everywhere what you see is Trump tariff and trade wars, and that's why US markets are also down, and that's why you are also down. So let's break it down. Let's understand what Trump tariff is and why is it a bad thing, right? So tariff is nothing but import duties.
Yeah.
Import
in
duties,
India, we call it as import duty.
Yeah, import duty is nothing but whatever you as a country is you in a country is importing from another country, the tax that you pay on top of that to your own country.
Yeah.
So that is what tariff is. So Donald Trump is back in presidency, and one of his favorite weapons against other countries is this tariff or import duty. So the trigger now is the fact that he has imposed an increased tariff on Canada, Mexico, but more importantly, China.
Yep.
And not just that, he imposed extra tariff on China, import from China. Now China has also struck back. China is saying that, hey, if anyone from China is importing stuff from the US, an import duty or a tariff is imposed on that as well. Now, if you think about it, it is a trade war which is happening here. Obviously, whatever Trump is doing, China is not liking. Whatever China is now doing, retaliating to this, Trump would also be not liking it. So that tension is really happening. That's why the markets are not liking it as well.
Yeah, I think the long-term and short-term impacts on India is what is to be discussed here. Because just like we talked about the budget, where the budget is giving a sense of how the Indian economy, the Indian industries will perform, even this at a geopolitical or a global level, it is going to dictate how India will grow as a country. Right? Because whenever the business moves out of China, which is the world's manufacturing powerhouse, I think India will surely benefit. So right now, as we speak, India is not directly a part of this trade war. We are an indirect party to it. So when the two major superpowers of the world are fighting, India is indirectly trying to benefit from it. Yes, there will be few problems, disruptions in supply chain, logistics problems, and so on and so forth. But India is trying to pull a lot of those manufacturing deals that China has back into the country. I mean, even over the last 4 years, the PLI scheme that we have been seeing quite a lot, it is also a part of that part of India that was preparing for this trade war that could come. I feel we are very ready for what is going to come over the next 1 year. And if we play our cards right, I think it can be really good for the country.
Now that US has imposed tariffs on China, which is 10%, US companies would be looking at other global companies to be an alternative for China, right? And definitely India is looking forward for that. And, we can even discuss which sectors would actually be, benefited from this.
The very first sector here is very, very obvious, which is nothing but manufacturing and especially electronics. Because if you look at China's export into the US, the largest sector is electronics.
Interesting.
So that's where India could come in, right? And we've seen this playing out already. We already are speaking about iPhones getting manufactured in India and getting exported as well. So that will play out for sure. And you spoke about the amazing PLI scheme that Indian government is pushing as well, production linked incentive scheme.
Yeah.
We see a lot of manufacturing plants set up in India, and there is a larger Make in India theme which is also playing out. So I think India is at a very good place to capitalize on that and to capitalize on manufacturing, especially in the electronic space. And thinking about stocks, hey, the very famous names of Dixon and Amber are what comes to my mind. But then, hey, there could be more opportunities as well.
One of the other sectors which will definitely feel the impact, definitely feel the benefits are pharma and related chemical sector. So India is already the largest pharma producer in the world. We're known as a pharma capital. And because of this, there are a lot of certain ingredients that China manufactures. So whenever there is restrictions being put on these ingredients, Indian companies have an opportunity to step up. So Cipla, your Sun Pharma, all of them are even API manufacturers as well. API is a component which goes into pharma manufacturing, and even larger chemical stocks. Anything around the chemicals theme, I am very bullish on it. I have been bullish on it earlier as well. And I think that's going to be really positive for these industries.
Yeah, and China exports a lot of plastic goods, plastic toys and everything to the whole world. And India, if we can set up those plants here, those manufacturing units, those sectors can also grow really well. And obviously, against the dollar, Indian rupee is like falling, that we all already know, right? So this is again making lucrative to US companies to buy stuff from in India, because the US dollar is superior and they're getting at much cheaper cost.
Yeah. So our currency depreciating actually has this hidden benefit that a lot of people are not thinking about. I mean, it has its pros and cons like we've discussed in the previous episodes.
Yeah.
But one of the benefits is that our exports will be more competitive in the global markets. So I think to summarize, from both of these stories, both from the budget story as well as the Trump tariff war story, what audience needs to go by is the first level is that there are direct companies which will benefit. Okay, your stocks which we discussed right now, they have the potential to be benefited. At the second level, now I'm asking everyone to think a layer deeper. At the second level or the second layer, there are suppliers to these larger companies which will benefit. Let's take, for example, a plastic manufacturing company which is supplying to any of the industries that we talked about earlier. Now, plastic manufacturing could also improve because of the other companies doing well.
Yeah.
Now, think one more layer deeper. As the country grows, as the economy grows, there is a possibility that your FMCG companies would start doing well, your energy sector will start doing well, and your auto sector. So all of the industries which signal that the economy is doing well, they'll also start booming. So I think that's something that the audience and the viewers can think about.
So the very larger or the largest layer being economy could do well. Nifty 50 could do well. All of your equity investments could do well because a lot of positive things. But from a very short-term perspective, with Trump doing all these trade war and stuff like that, there could be volatility as well. So when you can be bullish, dreaming about how economy is going to do well and your equity investments are going to do well over the long term, short term, there could be volatility. Traders will have to remain safe and stuff like that is also something I'll have to put out.
Yeah, the lack of economic peace. I know
exactly.
Countries have become less aggressive towards each other on the war front in general, but the lack of economic peace, I think, will keep the markets on their toes and will be volatile. And like we had discussed earlier, Sharik, VIX could remain higher. That is a benefit for traders who are looking to sell options in the Indian markets. VIX would remain higher because of one of this could be the possible reasons.
So just like I wrapped the previous story, it's very similar here, right? I mean, looks like very interesting times to be alive in India. A lot of things looking good for India, short term, medium term, long term. Most importantly, long term, country is flourishing, is getting positioned internally. And also externally, because of whatever is happening, India could become or is becoming an amazing manufacturing destination. So things are looking very nice, super excited, thrilled. I hope the audiences are also. But yeah, that is what it is.
Yeah. So talking or wrapping up these two subjects, I think the third subject or the third story is also very interesting, where the theme of India growing, the middle class and the tier 3, tier 4 cities in the country growing, this stock was associated with all of these discussions. It was Trent, or very popularly known as the parent company of Zudio.
Yeah.
So Trent, as you all know, has been a huge multi-bagger. I mean, at every point, I think, okay, the stock is going to stop here. The rally is almost done. It will just keep on moving up. But I think the rally is finally over, or it's looking like it's over, where the stock has fallen nearly 40% over the last few months from the all-time high.
Yeah, and this is where I'm seeing articles like the Trent lost or the Zudio is in loss of 45,000 crores.
Oh yeah, people actually asked us.
Yeah, people were asking us, did actually Zudio commit or make a loss of 45,000 crores? And that is where you have to understand that the share price have fallen. So the total market cap of the stock has fallen by so much.
Yeah.
That they have to understand. But
And that market cap falling
Yeah.
is being termed as a clickbait
Yeah.
or a misleading title for all of those articles which are saying that Zudio fell or Zudio made a loss of 40,000 crores. I mean, shame on you for whoever wrote that headline is what I would say.
I mean, we can't take names here because these are big publications. But again, coming down to the actual point, why did the stock price even fall by 40%? If we look into the metrics or even on the surface level, if you are talking about, the revenues are not growing as much as it should or the expected revenue growth.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of overlap that is happening with the stores in the top 10 tier cities that they are trying to build. So the stores are very close, the revenues are not growing, and even there is a stat that says almost 35% of the stores that they have are all in the top 10 tier cities. So that is causing a lot of trouble for them.
Yeah. When people say revenue is not increasing, it is still increasing. 30-40% up every single year is what we are seeing revenue increasing by. But it is not up by the percentage or the level which investors were expecting.
And why? Because it was already trading at astronomically high valuations. It was trading at a PE of 240.
Crazy.
What is it even? A PE of, what is a PE of 240? And even after a fall of near 40-50%, it is still trading at a PE of 120.
Yeah.
So it had to fall. I mean, does it make sense for a stock to continue at a PE of 240 and grow from there? So it didn't make sense at all. So if you ask me the question of why did it fall, it had to fall because of this specific reason itself. So that's one. Number two is they had this strategy or plans around their supermarket business expansion, Bazaar as we know it. But that is also not as per expectations. So it's all expectation management, disappointment being delivered because expectations are not being met. Like you said about the stores being opened and stuff like that. So same goes with their Bazaar supermarket business, which is also not opening as many stores are expected. Then there is also worry coming in from quick commerce stealing the show and stuff like that. But hey, I still believe that valuations were so damn crazily high that it had to fall and come back to normalcy.
Yeah. But again, the company, when we actually did a Zudio case study video, we understood that Zudio works on a FOCO model, which is franchisee owned and company operated model that they run. They clearly said, or their principles were that they wouldn't open stores very close by because each store should be profitable and the revenue shouldn't split between the stores. That was their ideology.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened, and now the stores are overlapping. I remember going back home, last December, I could see 3 Zudio stores in a radius of 1 kilometer.
Yeah, I think
what's happening?
Yeah, I think that's a major problem when you're making a lot of money from your franchisees or selling franchisees. You're incentivized to sell as many stores as you can.
Yeah.
And when a particular situation like this comes, when your same store sales growth or like for like growth, that means in a certain store, the revenue is not increasing, but your company's revenue is increasing because you opened more stores.
Yeah.
When that situation comes in, everyone starts panicking, right? I think...
And then there's also the fact of a lot of competition is also coming up.
Correct.
Other major companies are also launching their own Zudio copies. Right? You have your Style Union, then Reliance has a Zudio copy, then Aditya Birla Fashion has a Zudio copy. I forgot the name. Then even in Kerala, I think Kalyan launched a Zudio copy, and it's so if that's happening in Kerala, there could be in other states as well local players launching their Zudio copy. I think that as a theme is also being played out by multiple other companies. So that's definitely competition will never help a company as well, right?
Yeah.
And one more reason, what I see is going fundamentally wrong with the company is. My brother has sent me a Snapchat. He just sent me a snap. He was traveling in a metro. he took a picture and showed me that there were 7 people with the same shirt, all from Zudio.
Yeah.
So the exclusivity or, the pride or the happiness of you wearing a certain clothes, because, people like to feel good by wearing good clothes. While Zudio, gives out good clothes to wear, feel good clothes to wear, the exclusivity factor kicks in. You see in a metro, how, think about 10 people wearing the same shirt in the same metro that you're traveling.
It's like
people
a
get
uniform.
disappointed.
People wearing the
Yeah,
same uniform
exactly.
in school.
And that is actually, causing that psychological effect also on people to not go and buy Zudio as often they used to earlier.
Yeah.
So in long term, that could be a real trouble for Zudio.
Even I've gone to Zudio. I've shopped from West Side, but
Yeah.
then when you talk about it, I've stopped shopping even from West Side because of the same reason. Everything looks the same.
Yeah.
You can easily understand that person is wearing what the other person is wearing, and I think that being a large problem, was it just a trend?
Yeah.
Was trend just
A
a
trend.
trend? Is what is just crossed my mind right now. And if that happens, I mean, just imagine, it's a huge company.
Yeah.
It's potentially one of Tata's most famous and largest companies. What will happen? Or is there a scope for the brand to mature, to bring out more stores which are feeling more premium, to slowly increase their prices
Yeah.
so that their revenue increases? All this is what is coming to my mind. I really don't want this to collapse or this model to collapse. Hopefully it won't.
But again, time will only have to say where this stock or where the company would grow. And I think this is where we have to wrap up today's show. We've had 3 amazing stories. The third story is kind of a concern. People reached out to us, so we addressed it. But the major elephant in the room, which was budget and then tariffs, being imposed on multiple countries, I think those were the 2 major important topics that we covered. And I think that is where we have to end this session today
Yeah.
here. I hope our viewers found it really interesting and very valuable, especially with the budget and explanations that we give. And if you haven't already understood about the tax slabs or how are you being taxed, Ajay has made an amazing video on the same channel. Do watch that video also in detail. And obviously, if you want a bite-sized content, there is always a clips channel that you can go and subscribe to and watch our videos there as well.
Yeah, I also quickly want to discuss 3 headlines that did not make the cut this week. So every week we go through 5, 6, 7 headlines, but we end up selecting 3.
Yeah.
So one was a Ola electric bike launch. I see a lot of buzz on social media. And then the Dipinder Goyal's tweet on how the chief of staff position, which anyone who was applying had to pay 20 lakhs for, that has been filled without taking any money, by the way. And Zomato entering Nifty 50 and changing their name. They changed their name, right?
Eternal, yeah. They
Yeah.
changed the parent company's name to Eternal. So it's much like what Google did. Google renamed the parent company's name to Alphabet, and all the products come under it. So similarly, because their story is Blinkit is kind of already outgrowing Zomato.
Yeah.
So the parent company is now Eternal. They even want to build stories which are even bigger than Blinkit now.
Yeah.
So it's a much larger play now.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
And coming down to Ola's bike, I just hope they don't catch fire this time and, they stay out of radar and just, produce good quality bikes, provide good quality service, and they just keep growing.
Yeah, hopefully the sales catch fire and not the vehicles in themselves. So I think that's where we'll wrap the show. Thank you all for joining into the 12th episode of the Aftermarket Podcast. This is Ajay Ajit signing off. See you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.